All right, joining us today on Pirate Radio Live, DH Conley head football coach Nate Connor getting ready for another year. Friday Night Lights. You can hear Conley football right here every Friday on Pirate Radio. Coach, good to have you here in what you call the Holt Nailers room.
Yeah, the Holt Nailers room. I think that's where this started, maybe a little bit. It's pretty cool to be sitting in a seat maybe he sat in. But no, this is exciting to be here. Exciting. Pirate Radio is going to be covering our games this year on Friday nights. Do such an awesome job. I know we have a lot of fans that aren't able to necessarily be at the game or listen from afar who this means a lot to.
Without your tutelage, who knows? Holt Nailers may have never made it here.
You never know. I don't know. He's a pretty special one. We're very proud of what he's doing.
We were looking at the all-time leaders, North Carolina numbers as far as passing, receiving. Holton fifth all-time in yards. Caden Norman, by the way, 25th all-time. His days at Cleveland, so we want to shout him out.
Yep.
But C.J. Johnson's up there in receiving. You had a number of guys up there, which is awesome to see. You want wins, championships, that kind of stuff, but man, the numbers that you guys have put up offensively in your time is very impressive, Coach, and hopefully we'll see that keep rolling, right?
Yeah, those guys were transformational in some of the things we were able to do offensively because they were so talented, so young, they had so much drive. They allowed us to open up and try things, and we just kept growing with it. Now these guys these days are products of what those guys kind of laid the foundation for. We did some different things offensively before their time and had a lot of success with it. But then they kind of come in and transform that, and it was a special time to be a part of.
High school football, and if I'm not mistaken, especially for Conley, you get who you get. Like,
yeah.
You're not out there recruiting and bringing guys in.
No.
So I guess my question there is, say you have a cycle where maybe you don't have the best passing quarterback, but you have a running quarterback. How much are you able to tailor what you do around the kids, and how much do you say, this is what we do here, you need to learn how to do this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think we have to tailor it around the players we have. That is the challenge. We don't get to recruit. We don't just have anybody come to our school. We're down a quarterback. We got to find a guy that's athletic, and we got to fit it around him. Now, we've had young men that come through and done a great job and worked really hard about it. I'm excited about the one we have this year, and he's matured through it. He's going to be a senior that started since his sophomore year, but that was one of the challenges. His early sophomore year was we weren't sure. We didn't want to put too much on him offensively as a young guy. We wanted to try to put him in positions to be successful, so we were trying to adapt our offensive structure but still have a player like Isaiah Crumpler on your roster to make sure you could get him the ball in the ways he needed and do the things that worked for him, but also bring those other guys along. So whether it's offensive linemen, defensive linemen, secondary, linebackers, it's always that. That's what you have to do in the high school world. You can't just say, well, our quarterback's a senior this year, we've got to go find the next one, or we've got to be thinking 2 years ahead. We've got to find our next offensive tackle. We have to develop it, or we have to develop the scheme that allows that young man to be successful.
Crumpler was a do-it-all, do everything but drive the bus basically guy. Who are you counting on this year? You mentioned the QB, but offensively with the QB, skill guys, O-line, like who are your key guys? You think
I think the first two that jump out at you are Samari, our quarterback, Samari Cabell. He is going to be a senior. He's been starting since his sophomore year. So he is just phenomenal in the way he approaches the game. His talent level, he's a big-bodied young man that can run and throw. He's got a strong arm, kind of make any throw we want, but he's also extremely intelligent. He's a great student in the classroom and on the field, and he's got a pretty cool connection. His brother is a junior, a year behind him, and he is very talented as well at wide receiver. So they are a very good 1-2 punch right there with that, but we have other wide receivers, and Jacob Stilley, who's kind of in that same world. He contributed a lot as a sophomore, and he's up to a senior now as well, who's playing a big role in kind of our gadget guy and different things we can do. We've got a great running back, and Elijah Taft, and then we have some other guys behind him on the offensive side, and then some offensive linemen that are Ross Chandler is an offensive tackle. His brother Reed played for us, was a defensive lineman and offensive lineman in that Holt Nailers years, and went on to West Point, and now Ross is a senior this year, and David Richardson and Tucker Jackson. So it starts with the line of scrimmage to allow those other guys to get the things done on the perimeter and running the ball. So from an offensive perspective, those are names that just jump out right away.
And due to coaches like you who draw it up on offense and do all these crazy things, it's getting tougher and tougher to play defense. in 2025 across the board. So, how about for you, Coach? What about the defensive side of the ball for Conley this year?
It's I want to say too, with all those things, we have phenomenal coaches. It allows us to coach each position on the offense with the offensive line, the receivers. Our offensive coordinator Jordan Smith does an incredible job. We've got Matt Taylor back from Washington High School, who's coaching our offensive line, and then our defensive coaches. AJ Price is our defensive coordinator, and he does a phenomenal job putting those guys in positions to be successful. Coach Andy too, who is a long time. He coaches our defensive line and works with our special teams. Coach Deal works with our DBs. So it allows us to develop those guys. So it's not just me, but when it comes to those players on that side of the ball, starting with the defensive line, there's a young man, Caden Leneve, who has just really worked extremely hard this offseason. He's going to be a senior. I think he's going to anchor that defensive line. He's a great pass rusher, and he plays the run well, and he's got some length. He's really worked on his strength level in the offseason. I think he's going to do a great job. A young man, Nick Sawyer, is going to play nose guard and kind of control the middle for us, we really feel. And then we got some young guys going to step in some odd spots. At the linebacker level, we have a young man, Landon Basilano, who was our leading tackler last year, returning back at inside linebacker. And we have a young man at Bryson Roach coming off the edge as kind of a pass rusher hybrid guy that's a very physical, athletic man on the edge to the boundary that can get after the passer but play in coverage too and do some nice things. And then in the back end, we have two returners and Mason Sortini, actually three, Dallas Carmen at safety, and then Andrew DeSoto at corner. So we feel like at every level kind of our team on the offensive and defensive side, there's some experience coming back.
Are the numbers good enough to where you don't have any two-way guys?
We are trying that. We've really tried to work that. We feel in a practice environment, and we've tried to base that depth out where we are trying to go nobody two ways. We have two separate offensive and a defensive side of the ball. Some guys are playing and floating back and forth, doing it, but we've kind of really evaluated that. We've got a lot of players that are working hard, and so every day at practice they get a little more time. Instead of having to cut it in half and play offense for a little bit then defense, we're taking those guys and we're getting reps for those guys behind them, and it feels like it's building depth for our team.
Talk a lot to Will Bland over at Rose about the JV and how it's a feeder system to the big team, the varsity team. And is that the same over at Conley? How are the numbers there at JV? Is that a healthy
I tell you, we have an incredible number of JVs. It's exciting for the future of football, not only at DH Conley, just the amount. We have had a record number of freshmen this year. Yeah. And it's exciting. And the young men that are sophomores, we had a great number of freshmen last year. So our JV is huge. All our coaches coach the JV as well. Yeah. So it allows them to grow up and develop in it, and it kind of allows us to get to this point as they're on varsity to kind of identify what those positions are. And we think it's helping with our depth to be able to, with our numbers, have guys just focus on one side of the football.
Yeah, and they're almost ready to go day one when they see you, right?
In a lot of ways. It's not perfect. Yeah. But the weight room, the way they commit in the weight room and develop their bodies and buy into our system, it's with our coaches coaching them all the time, it really helps.
So D.H. Conley is now a 6A?
7A.
7A, all right, and which the numbers are different now, and instead of 1 through 4, it's 1 through 8. Yeah. The conference, pretty much the same. White Oak comes in, right? Is that the only?
You lose Jacksonville Northside and Havelock, and we pick up White Oak.
That's right, Havelock, which is a pretty big subtraction.
Yeah, and we are we are 8 classifications now. We used to be 4 classifications. 4 years ago, previous to this, we subdivided. And so in football was the only group that subdivided. We would still have 8 classifications in state champions. You had your small 1A, right, big 1A. And there was times we were big 3A, and there was times we were small 4A. So we're kind of around that 7A, 6A round. But Conley's just a growing school and a community, and so we're in that 7A numbers.
Rose picked first amongst the coaches. I describe it as like a college basketball. They had a college basketball year where they just let's not worry about it until it gets important.
Yeah, there you go.
They started 0-5 or whatever, then reeled off all those wins, did good in the playoffs. But how about the conference as a whole, and where do you think Conley fits into it?
I think it's a fun conference. I think you got continuity in coaches. I think you got teams that had success. You got a team in Jacksonville that was extremely talented last year, who went all the way to the Eastern Finals. Just missed playing for the state championship. Rose, I think that shows the depth of our conference last year, which is very similar to the year before. I think they won 2 conference games last year with their 2 wins in the regular season. Now they played a really tough non-conference schedule, and then they go on a run to the 4th round, I believe, in the playoffs. New Bern has progressively gotten better, has a quarterback coming back, some really good athletes. So that's fun. I think Jacksonville, and then White Oak was a playoff team last year. So you lost Havelock, who had a fantastic team last year, led by Johnny Williams, who's doing great things for East Carolina now, and doing that. But you pick up White Oak, a playoff team, and every week you have to be prepared, ready to play.
And I asked you about this at Media Day, but having a couple of guys now from D.H. Conley on that ECU offensive line with Weaver and Panda Askew, Bryce Weaver, Panda Askew, that's awesome. And I know you want guys to, even if it's not football, succeed at the next spot in college. But how cool is that? How cool is that for your current players to see Holden Naylor, CJ, Dixon Williams with baseball, Maeve English at soccer, like seeing these folks go to ECU?
I think it shows a lot of cool things. Greenville is an incredible community. The amount of athletes that the city of Greenville puts out in all sports.
Yeah.
You talk about just Conley athletes, and you could go down the road in separate ways. It's really neat for the community that if you're a young kid and do the right things growing up and work really hard, there can be some great options, and your dreams are not unattainable. I think that's what's really cool for Conley students is there's guys that walk through their middle school halls and their high school halls that are still currently playing. So you have something really close that, you have a guy playing in the Big Ten and Isaiah Crumpler at Rutgers. You see 2 former players that when they're on spring break or summer break, they come back and work out in Bryce and Panda. We've got other young men, too, at smaller schools that don't necessarily get the notoriety of those big schools still playing. So it's like, hey, if I have aspirations of dreams of continuing my college career of athletics in college and getting my education, if I work really hard and trust the process, that I can get there.
I like talking to other sports with you. We won't talk about the Braves today for obvious reasons. But how you feeling about ECU this year?
I'm excited. I think Coach Harrell brings a level of energy and those things. Coach Baker having another year in the conference. I think they really have identified who they are up front on the offensive line. They have they have experienced backs. The quarterback does a phenomenal job when you go out there. He's very talented. And, so I think they know who they want to be as an identity on offense. And then you bring another defensive mind in as the coordinator. I give Coach Harrell a lot of credit. Is he didn't bring somebody else in from my perspective that it's just going to be another person who does things the way he does.
Right.
I think he brought in a coach on the defensive side that does some things a little differently to bring a different perspective, and I'm very interested to see what their defensive spin on things. They're going to do an outstanding job flying around, so I think they have an edge. I think it's going to be an exciting year for the Pirates.
Great opener against NC State. Nate Connor, your final message to the folks. What type of football are they going to see when they go out to Hollywood Crossroads Friday nights and watch a D.H. Conley game this year?
I think you're going to see disciplined young men that love football. They're going to play the game the right way for each other, for their school, in all levels of the game. We spend a lot of time on special teams, offense and defense. They're going to play hard every single week. There's not going to be a doubt when we walk off the field that we didn't try to unturn every stone that could give us a chance to be successful schematically, effort-wise, and I think they're going to play hard, and I think there's some exciting days ahead.
Awesome stuff. I'm pulling for the Vikings, of course. They're going to get a lot of coverage here on Pirate Radio, and Cole Martin, who's done some interning here, is doing some stuff out there as well, the senior at D.H. Conley.
Man, we got our Conley crazies and then the Conley athletics and the stuff they do. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to be. That's where D.H. Conley's an incredible school. There's avenues for everybody, and he does a great job with the DHC game day, and it's fun to be a part of and see kids going after their dreams and trying to go after stuff. So Cole does an awesome job, and we're excited for the atmosphere we're going to have on Friday night.
Absolutely. Nate, thanks for hanging out, man. Good luck on Friday.
Thanks a lot, Clip. Go Vikings.